Dear students, welcome to Unit 5 of Marketing Research. In Unit 5, we are here with video 1, which is going to cover conjoint analysis. Unit 5 is going to highlight some of the modern techniques which are used in marketing research and which are applicable directly to marketing. This video is targeted with a following learning objective to be achieved. At the end of the video, it would enable the viewer to understand in short what is conjoint analysis, what does conjoint analysis do and what is it used for, situation where conjoint analysis is applicable, key conjoint analysis terms, types of conjoint analysis, application of conjoint analysis in marketing, and finally, the steps which are carried out in conjoint analysis before we conclude this video. Let us try to understand what is conjoint analysis. Conjoint analysis is a technique for predicting how the product created and designed by the marketer performs when it is taken to the market. It means it is one of an optimal market research approach for measuring the value that customers place on features of a product or services. This commonly uses approach which combines real life scenarios and statistical technique with modeling of actual market decisions. Conjoint analysis is an advanced market research analysis method that attempts to understand how people make complex choices. Let us put that into a very simple example. A hotel owner would like to know whether choice of menu or prompt service would attract a customer to visit them frequently. Not only this, even simple decisions like choosing a laundry detergent. Will it be Tide? Should it be Surf Excel? Should it be Ariel to buy? Or deciding to book a flight for an upcoming trip. Shall I book a flight of Indigo, Courier, SpiceJet? It contains multiple elements that ultimately lead us to a pre-specified choice. After booking, we need to analyze why person has opted for Indigo, not SpiceJet. That is what very simple decision also needs to get understood. And that is how conjoint analysis is one of the most effective model in extracting consumers preferences during a purchase process. So we need to understand the consumer preferences when he's going to make a purchasing process, and that is how the conjoint analysis is one of the very effective model. Conjoint analysis has been evolved into a method that mostly market researchers and statisticians implement to predict the kind of decision consumers will make about product by using questions. Here, the central idea is that for any purchase decisions, consumer evaluate different characteristics of a product and decide which are more important to them. Thus, the primary aim of an online conjoint survey is to distinct values to the alternatives that the buyer may consider while making a purchase decisions. Equipped with this knowledge, marketers can target the features of product or services that are highly important and decide messages more likely that could strike a chord with target buyers. Let us put that into a very simple example. Conjoint model can predict respondent preference. Let us try to analyze a conjoint study on laptop. The attribute would be color. colors are white, silver, gold. Second attribute would be screen size, 11 inches, 13 inches, 15 inches, and third attribute is prices. So if you look at three prices, three different level for each attribute, the possible combination available would be 3 into 3 into 3. That is 3 3 is the 9, 9 is the 27 different attributes would be available. Different combination would be available from which the consumer would opt as one of the most preferred. So what conjoint analysis will help us? Conjoint analysis will help us to zoom down what are those attributes or those perfect combination which are required by the company to launch in the market so that their laptop would be preferred by the consumer. That is what we need to understand with the simple task that conjoint analysis is been widely used basically in the new product development process for selecting among alternative product designs, targeting, and pricing. What could be the design, which should be the target segment, what should be the segmentation criteria carried out, and for a particular segment, what are the pricing. That is what we need to analyze when we talk about conjoint analysis. In short, conjoint analysis deals with measurement of the combined effect of two or more attributes that are important from a consumer point of view. With this, I suppose it makes very clear that conjoint analysis is nothing but understanding how people make choices between the product or services or combination of product services so that organization can design new product or services that best meets the customer's underlying need. With this basic introduction or definition of conjoint analysis, let us move to the second point and try to find out what conjoint analysis does it do and what is it used for. The first question to be addressed, what it does. Conjoint analysis allows consumer preferences for a product or services to be broken down into trade-off. This trade-off is broken down among its individual attributes without separating these attributes from the context in which overall judgments are made. So remember, conjoint analysis helps us to know the best trade-off with respect to individual attributes on which overall judgments are made. And second question, what it is used for? It is used for numerous purposes. Conjoint analysis is effectively used for optimizing product configuration. Which product design would be the most effective and would gather more consumer should be or will be decided by conjoint analysis. Point number two, conjoint analysis also helps us in studying price elasticities of demand. If X is the price of the product, what could be the demand for the product? We need to find out at various prices what could be the demand for the product and need to find that optimum price which will lead to higher demand, which will make customer to consider it as a value for them, and for a marketer it would be a profitable business. Conjoint analysis also helps in simulating market response to an absolutely new product or a modified offerings. Most of the time, generally the offerings are modified in terms of key features, benefit or packing or price or promotion. We need to analyze if that is modified, what could be the impact and what could be the perfect trade-off available. Last but not, conjoint analysis can also be used for diagnosing competitive strengths and weaknesses. In short, if I say conjoint analysis is a market research tool for developing effective product design, the researcher will definitely try to use conjoint analysis. If you move forward and try to analyze from the discussion, we can definitely try to get few questions which can be answered by by using conjoint analysis. Question number 1, what product attributes are important or not important to the consumers can be very well understood by conjoint analysis. Second thing, we can also understand understand that what level of product attributes are the most or least desirable in the consumer's mind. Attributes can be identified, but the levels also would play a very important role. What are those levels which are most or least desirable in the consumer's mind can also be understood through conjoint analysis. Question number three, which can be addressed, is what is the market share of preference for leading competitors' product versus our existing or proposed product can also be easily found out when we try to carry out a conjoint analysis. So these are three questions which a researcher or marketer would definitely get addressed when he is trying to go for conjoint analysis. When he wished to go for conjoint analysis, there are certain riders which the researcher needs to understand. There are which are the cases or situations in which conjoint analysis would be applicable. The first is the product as bundle of attributes. In this, remember that you should have a product which must be specified as collection of attributes. What does it mean? If you take an example of laptop, attributes would be performance, storage, display, RAM and many other, but they are having attributes, hence conjoint analysis can be done on a product like laptop. Second, the researcher must know what are the important attributes. In short, the researcher must be in a position to find out what are the salient attributes in a particular category. Conjoint analysis requires that we either know or find out any other method with what attributes are silent in the product category which are required if you want to carry out conjoint analysis. Means we need to specify a set of attributes which consumer views independently. That is, value of one attribute should not be dependent on the level of another. Third, respondents can reasonably rate the product. Here, it brings one thing absolutely clear, that the input data we require from the respondents are overall preferences or purchase likelihood judgments. So, this requires a level of respondents' familiarity with the product category. That means, unless and until the respondent is familiar to the product category, conjoint analysis cannot be made applicable, which makes very clear that revolutionary categories conjoint analysis would not be an appropriate technique. Fourth situation which needs to be fulfilled for implementation of conjoint analysis is attributes should be actionable. What does it mean? That the firm should in most cases should be in a position to act upon the output of the conjoint by constructing a product oblique service which delivers the attribute levels used in the analysis. That is what four conditions which needs to be fulfilled when we need to carry out conjoint analysis. So if you take a recap, we tried to understand what is called as conjoint analysis. We tried to analyze where and how it can be. We tried to analyze which are the situations which are required for conjoint analysis to be applicable. A step forward, let us try to look into some basic terms which are related to conjoint analysis. The first term which would be required is termed as attributes. Attributes are also called as features. The product features being evaluated by the analysis are called as attributes. To make it more simple, if we take an example of laptop, brand, size, color, battery would be attributes of laptop and they are termed as attributes or features in case of conjoint analysis. Second term is labels. Labels are nothing but the specification of each attribute. How does it mean? If I say attribute was brand, if I have different brands like Samsung, Dell, Apple, Asus, Lenovo, These are levels of an attribute. That is what we need to understand and is the term called as level. Third is the concept or profile. It is nothing but the hypothetical product or offering. This is for what we are trying to study something is with respect to this is a set of attributes with different levels that are displayed at each task count. This usually at least two to choose from. Third, next fourth definition we have is relative importance. Relative importance is also called as attribute importance. This depicts which of the various attributes of a product or services are more or less important while making a purchase decision. For example, if I want to purchase a laptop, for laptop relative importance in terms of percentage would be, it is an hypothetical again, for a brand it would be 35%, price 30%, size 15%, battery life 15%, that is 1 5, color is 5, all put together 100%. Here attribute importance is highest to brand and lowest to color, that is what is called as relative importance. Moving to fifth term which we should be aware of is called as part worths oblique utility values. It is nothing but how much weight an attribute label carries. Like what we have given relative importance to a laptop, we can also give a weightage criteria, weight and attribute to the particular product. For example, if you take an example of brand, if you give weightages, that will be one to different brands, one with highest would be termed as will have an highest weightage and other would have a lowest weightage. If for example I have different brands of laptop in front of me and I have given a high weight to Samsung of 0.11, Dell is of 0.10, Apple is of 0.7 and Asus is of 0.16. From this I can conclude that Apple is having a high weight as compared to Samsung or Dell. Dell stands as 0.10. That is what we are trying to give a weight on the basis of a brand. Sixth definition is, let us try to understand what is profile. Profile is nothing but by doing this analysis, we are trying to discover a product which will have an highest utility value for the consumer and for the company. It would be helpful so that the sales of that particular product takes place. Seventh definition is called as market share simulation. It is one of the most unique and fascinating aspects of conjoint analysis is termed as conjoint simulator. Conjoint simulator gives ability to predict the consumer's choice for new product and consumers that may not yet exist. That is what we need to understand. It is trying to give a consumer choice, predictions of a consumer choice if a new product or concept would come into existence. It measures the gain or loss in market share based on changes to existing products in the given market. That is what is called as market share stimulation simulation. Then we move to the eighth definition, which is called as brand premium. Brand premium is nothing but trying to find out that what could be the price which would be paid by the consumer for my brand versus a competitor brand. If they are ready to pay more for me, that is what is called as brand premium. And last definition, which is important and a term which is important in conjoint analysis, is price elasticity and demand curve. Taken from economics, price elasticity relates to aggregate demand for a product and shape of the demand curve. Generally, you are aware it is calculated by plotting the demand, that is frequency count by total responses at different levels of price. With these terms, let us try to move to the next portion and look into what are the different types of conjoint analysis. There are basically two types of conjoint analysis as given on the slide. The first is choice based conjoint analysis, which is called as CBC, and second is called as adaptive conjoint analysis, which is called as ACA. Let us try to understand what is a choice based conjoint analysis. This type of conjoint analysis is the most popular because it asks consumer to imitate the purchasing behavior in the real market. Which products they would choose given certain criteria on price and specified features, what would be the purchase made by them. Let us try to understand that with a very simple example with fictional characters. For instance, there are two brands available, smartphone 1 and smartphone 2. First has an 6.7-inch display, second is having 6.67. If you compare both of them, display of smartphone 1 is higher. Then if you look at the microprocessor, you have Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset, and the second also has the same, that is Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset. Third, storage or processor, 6 GB RAM and 128 GB storage is available in smartphone 1, which you termed as S1, and S2 has 6 GB RAM, 128 GB storage. Both of them are same, means processor and storage is almost same for both S1 and S2. Smartphone 1 has a dual rear camera, that is 12 MP plus 16 megapixel. In case of uh, the smartphone 2, it is a triple rear camera with 48 megapixel, 8 MP plus 16 MP. Now to see the difference, smartphone 2 is having a triple rear camera and S1 is having a dual rear camera. If you look at battery, smartphone 1 may have a battery of 4000, while that of smartphone 2 is having a battery of 2800. What does it means? That the battery of smartphone 1 is superior. Means in case 2, sample 2, it is a triple rear camera available, and in case 1, the battery is good. If you look at the from outer perspective as a physical, you may see that both the devices are identical, but S1 has a triple camera, S2 has a triple camera with better configuration, and S1 is having a high battery power as compared to S2. By analyzing the response, we would know how vital is a trade-off between the camera and the battery capacity. From this we can easily analyze that, and that can be done through choice-based conjoint analysis. Let us move forward and try to understand what is an adaptive conjoint analysis. Adaptive conjoint analysis is an analysis which is used more often in scenario where the number of attributes and features exceeds what can be done in choice based. Choice based, if we try to analyze, we had very selected attribute level, but in case of adaptive conjoint analysis, if you have more attributes, in that case it can be applicable for adaptive conjoint analysis. Adaptive conjoint analysis is applicable for product design and segmentation research, but is or cannot be used for determining the ideal price. That is what we need to understand. With this, let us move forward and try to understand what are the different applications of conjoint analysis in marketing. The first and foremost, it will help us to analyze a trade-off between what are the attributes, features, levels that could be made for a best trade-off that would benefit both the consumer and the company, will help us to launch a new product or service in the market. Second, repackaging existing product or services to the market can also be analyzed, which will help us to analyze the best trade-off of packaging which can be accepted and would lead or spark positive sales in future. It also helps to understand the consumers and their value towards the product. Conjoint analysis gains an actionable insight to increase our brand's competitive edge. It will place a price on your brand versus competing brand. That means competitive price can be fixed by analyzing or by using conjoint analysis before the product is launched into the market. Or conjoint analysis can be very well used in revamping the pricing strategy revamp it, either it can be increased to brand premium or it can be lowered for penetration pricing. That is what we need to do. Before we move to, let us try to look into conclude let us try to look into what are the different types of steps which are involved in conjoint analysis. First, I said we need to clearly identify in what cases conjoint analysis is applicable. If it fulfills all the four things which were been told in the previous session that are required for it to be implemented, like the four things which we tried to discuss was we need to find out conjoint analysis applicable only if it has product with bundle of attributes, must know what are the important attributes. Point number two. Point number three, respondents can reasonably rate the product. And if it fulfills the fourth criteria also, which we stated as and can be termed as that attribute should be actionable. If applicable, try to move forward with conjoint analysis. Formulate a problem, construct the stimuli. What is the trade-off you are interested to? Either a design, either a price, either a packaging, either you are remodifying the product. What are we going to do and what are the attributes of it we need to? Then we need to come up with what are the desired form of input data, whether it is metric or non-metric, whether you want to design the questionnaires where do you want your respondent to just rank or do you want to compare. That is what we need to, either you rate them or either you rank. When you have rank given, it is called as metric data, and when you are going to have rating given, then we are going to have it called as a non-metric data. Decide the form of input data, either it is with two attributes or if it is more than two attributes. That is what we need to understand, and depending upon that we can go for conjoint analysis process, and from the inputs we can really find out what is a trade-off. Before implementing, we need to find out what is the reliability and validity of the results it has given. Statistically, not very important, but we should be aware of conjoint analysis is statistically presented as u into bracket capital X summation of I, that is 1 to m, and summation j 1 to ki alpha I j x I j, in which u into x is overall utility of an alternative, that is pathward contribution or utility associated with the jth level of the ith attribute, that is I. X jj is the first if the jth level of the ith attribute is present, otherwise 0. Ki is equal to number of levels of attribute I, and m is equal to number of attributes. This is a model which is used for conjoint analysis, that is generally used by a statistical tool. Not more important, but we should be aware of the mathematical model of conjoint analysis. At least the values or the terms should be aware when we talk about the mathematical model. With this, let me conclude with the last part of what we have tried to put into and concluded as we have tried to analyze, or we should be in a position now to analyze, at least feel what is conjoint analysis, what does it do and what it is used for. We will also be in a position to analyze that situation where conjoint analysis is applicable, terms, types of conjoint analysis, application of conjoint analysis in marketing, steps, and the last but not the least, mathematical presentation of the term conjoint analysis was been analyzed and shown. Thank you.